Hey guys, Gen 3D Tech here. Today we're going to be checking out a limited edition pad from Yuki AIM. It's a control pad and unfortunately it's already sold out. So if you end up wanting this pad after seeing this review, you'll have to go on eBay to find it, or I'm sure there's some forums on Reddit where you can buy used pads or just people reselling them. And who knows, maybe it'll be available again at some point from Yuki AIM, or they might have the same pad with a different graphic in the near future, because it does mention drop 1, so maybe it'll be a drop 2 or one with a different graphic on it, like I said. I'm not sure, but if I find out any information, I'll add it into the video description. So without further ado, let's get into it. So first off, I purchased this pad on my own. It was $39.99 and I had to pre-order it. It took a little while to get, but like I said, I've been using it for the last couple weeks, and surprisingly, I found it to be actually a pretty good control pad. Most people, I'm sure, are buying it for the design. I personally am not a big fan of anime, but I know a lot of my viewers are, just from looking at all their Twitter profiles for sure. So I thought I'd go ahead and cover this pad, even though this is a limited drop and it's already sold out, like I said in the intro, but you can definitely get it on eBay. But it is kind of expensive. I think I've seen this going for like $80 to $100. But if you're a fan and you missed it, you can definitely go there to get it. Maybe they'll do another drop of this pad, because it was pretty successful. It sold out really fast. Because if you go on their website, it actually says drop 1. So I don't have any confirmation if that means there's going to be another drop of the same pad, or if there's just going to be a different design with the same surface. My guess is the latter, but I'm not sure. If I do find out, I'll add a link in the description, and I'll definitely mention it on my Twitter if you follow me there. But surface-wise is mostly what we're going to be covering, and surprisingly, I have enjoyed this surface quite a bit. It's very smooth to the skin, which I'm a big fan of, and it works out as a really good control pad. It's actually one of the better control pads that I've tried, surprisingly. Now, the one thing that a lot of people have complained about, and I think it's due to the box being more narrow than a lot of other boxes, because the size of this pad is 500 by 500, and it's got a 4mm thickness to it. It's got a decent amount of squish on it, as you can see. But like I said, what I was talking about before is because of the small box, it's really hard to see. You can see that it's got waves, and I've had this for several weeks now, and those waves won't come out. I don't know if it's the stitching causing it, or it was just rolled too tightly, but I've put a whole bunch of pads and weight on this to try and flatten it out, and it actually has improved, but it doesn't seem to get any better than that. Now, does that necessarily affect the performance of the pad? No, it doesn't. But looks wise, it's probably going to upset some people, because people are buying this pad most likely for the aesthetics mostly. So when you have these little rolls like that, that can be upsetting. For me personally, I enjoyed using this pad for performance wise, and I don't really care too much about stitching personally, or if it's exactly flat. The surface down here though lays nice and flat. There's a close-up of the surface. It's really hard to see any texture on it. It is a cloth pad. I don't know exactly what kind of cloth it is. That's all it says is cloth with a rubber base. And right there, pretty standard rubber base. And you can see the stitching right there. It's decent stitching for sure. Now, as you can see, the stitching is raised, and you'll definitely feel it when your mouse hits the edge. But unfortunately, you know, most pads are that way. There you can see a little bit of the texture there. Preference-wise, I always prefer when the when the pad is above the stitching. They put the stitching down below so you don't hit it. But some people do like that because if they're moving their mouse around, they like to know where the edge of the mouse pad is. But for me, I mostly wrist aim, so I'm just going out in a small area. So for me, pad size is not as important as it is to other people, because I don't move around. I don't make big sweeping movements on the pad like some people do, but I do like a nice smooth surface on my arm. Most hybrid pads or Cordura pads are kind of rough on your arm and your hands when you're sliding on it, but it's really smooth on the skin and pleasant. So I definitely prefer that type of pad. So I'll go ahead and bring out a couple pads that compare surface wise similar to it. So first is the Pure Track MF2 pad. The MF2 is a little bit faster, but has a similar feel to it. And then one of my favorite pads, the Dornfinger Raw Pad version 2. Again, the Raw Pad is a little bit faster than the Yuki Aim pad, but it does have somewhat of a similar feel. The Raw Pad, though, is definitely a better pad overall for sure. And then the new GameSense Radar V3 4mm also has a similar feel to it. Very controlled surface, but this is definitely a slower pad for sure. Off camera, I compared to all the other pads that I had, and there are some that feel a little bit similar, but not enough for me to bring out. Humidity wise, I didn't have any humidity issues with this pad, but we'll go ahead and do a little water test because, like I always say in my videos, if you haven't watched one of my reviews before, I'll go over it one more time. I don't have a very humid condition inside my house. I keep it very cool and dry, and I don't really have a sweating issue, so it rarely comes up. So we'll just put a little bit of water on. As you can see, because it's cloth, it actually absorbs the water fairly quickly. Surface wise, you do get a tad of slowdown, but not much. And I'm just using PTFE feet here. Glass, you get a little bit more slowdown, but it's not terribly noticeable. It's actually drying pretty quickly, so it probably will absorb any kind of humidity fairly easy. Now this is worst case scenario, so it's not a great test, but overall I don't think I'd worry too much about this pad in a humid environment. You might get a little bit of slowdown, but it's not very noticeable. It's just slight. If you're really concerned about something like that, then definitely get a synthetic cloth surface or a Cordura surface, which work really good in humid environments. But for the most part, most cloth pads are fine. There's only a few that are just terrible in humidity, and this is definitely not one of them. So don't have any problem recommending this to anybody under those type of conditions. So overall, at $40, do I recommend this pad? If you're just going based off of performance, no, because there's other pads that'll give you a performance for a cheaper price. But if you're a fan of the design, you're a fan of anime, then yeah, sure, why not? Go ahead and go for it. Now, I don't know if I would pay $80, $100 aftermarket for this pad, but if you got to have this pad, I guess, and you're willing to pay it, then, you know, more power to you. But if it was me and you want something like this, I'd probably just wait and see what they're going to do. I'm sure they'll release other pads like this, especially because it sold so well. There's also a desk pad that GameSense and Yuki Aim collabed on. I don't know if that's the time of this video, if that's already gone on sale or sold out. I'm just not as interested in desk pads usually, so I didn't bother obtaining that pad. But all in all, I actually am very surprised by the performance of the pad. I enjoy it quite a bit, but I do have pads that are very similar, so and that cost less money. So overall, I wouldn't purchase this pad over any of those pads that I brought out. But if you want something that does perform really well as a control pad, and this does, it's just not the fastest pad for sure, but if you like slower control pads and you like designs, then certainly this is a pad that you will probably enjoy. And if you already have this pad and you're just watching this review to get someone else's opinion, yeah, it's a decent pad. Yuki does have really nice surface. I just wish they could probably fix the edges, so hopefully if they do another drop on this, they'll have addressed that in the future. But yeah, that's about it. Hopefully you enjoyed this review and found it informative, and if you did, please leave a like. If not, leave a comment for me and tell me where I can improve. And yeah, and if you haven't subbed, go ahead. If not, no big deal. It doesn't matter to me one way or the other, but I do appreciate anybody who supports me. And lots more reviews coming, and lots more mouse pads, mice, and maybe some keyboards and some other things that I got planned. Lots of cool stuff coming, and I always appreciate the people that keep coming back time and time again and who support me on Twitter. Lots of crazy stuff happening, lots of cool stuff happening, and that's about all I got, so I'll see you on the next one. Later.